Hello guys and welcome back to the F1 Tube YouTube channel, and in today's video we will be reviewing the 2019 French Grand Prix. Now, it wasn't an absolute stormer of a race, but there are a few talking points to take from this Grand Prix. Now, apologies in advance for the sound, I can't do a lot about it at the moment, and apologies if the race results change after I've recorded this video regarding Daniel Ricciardo and the lower end of the points. So let's call this the provisional results, and Lewis Hamilton dominated the French Grand Prix today. I mean, the guy was in utter control again. Valtteri Bottas completed the Mercedes 1-2, but Charles Leclerc kept him under pressure. It was a great drive from the Monegasque to be that close to Valtteri Bottas. Leclerc rounds out the podium. Then we have Verstappen in 4th, Vettel in 5th, Sainz best of the rest in 6th. Then in the uncertainty area, we have Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, and Norris rounds out the top 10. But let's start off with Mercedes. Now, I'm not going to go too much into depth, but the car was so supreme around the Paul Ricard circuit. Lewis Hamilton was utterly dominant, and Valtteri Bottas, I thought, was quite poor, especially considering he was under pressure from Charles Leclerc in a much inferior Ferrari car. But the ascendancy from the Silver Arrows is relentless. Now let's move on to Ferrari, who had an okay race for their 2019 standards. Charles Leclerc was absolutely brilliant in my opinion. He delivered some stunning pace at times, and to keep Valtteri Bottas under pressure in that Ferrari car, he deserves a mass of praise. But Sebastian Vettel did not have a great race. Yes, he did start further back, but his pace in the mid part and tail end of the Grand Prix was just not good enough, and he did not mount enough pressure on Max Verstappen. Like I said in my qualifying review, Vettel is in a really deep place at the moment, and he really needs to ameliorate this. Max Verstappen did the best he could, coming home P4. His pace at the tail end of the Grand Prix was not that great, but what can you do in that Red Bull car, which really wasn't that great this weekend? And Pierre Gasly out of the points. This is becoming more of just adapting to the team. This is talking about driving talent also. Yes, Pierre did do well stretching out those soft tyres in the first stint, but his pace on the hard compound tyres was absolutely dreadful. He didn't commit to any racecraft, and I'm really starting to ask serious questions. I don't want Gasly to get dropped, but in the real world of how ruthless Red Bull can be sometimes, and how ruthless F1 can be sometimes, Pierre doesn't merit his seat at Red Bull. End of. Renault had a great race. Daniel Ricciardo finished P7 on track, but as we speak, he's under investigation for an overtake on Lando Norris. He went off the track, but I will go into more detail a bit later. Nico Hülkenberg came home P9 on track. I thought he had a great race, considering that track position is very, very pivotal in F1 these days. Haas endured what I think was their worst weekend in F1 for about 2 years. The car had absolutely no pace. Kevin Magnussen was struggling so much in the early stages. Late on in the race, Romain Grosjean retires, but my goodness, Haas need to bounce back in Austria, which is probably their strongest track on the F1 circus. Carlos Sainz drove a great race to claim best of the rest in P6, whilst Lando Norris hit problems late on and dropped down to 10th. The maturity from Lando was second to none to compose himself so well after a hydraulic problem really spreading, really losing so much performance. I'm really impressed of how he coped with himself. I'm gutted for him, but at least he took home a point, provisionally. Antonio Giovinazzi was always hindered in terms of strategy. The softs were never going to last that long, but when he was put on the hard tyres, he never really had any pace. But Kimi Raikkonen drove a stellar race to come home P8 on track. Obviously, we don't know the outcome of Ricciardo being under investigation, but the Alfa Romeo car wasn't spectacular on race day, but Kimi Raikkonen just made it work. Racing points weren't dreadful on race day, it's just that qualifying really hampered them, and if they did have a better qualifying, I have no doubt they would have scored points, but Yeah, Lance Stroll had some decent pace, but again, due to his qualifying, he couldn't pose a massive threat towards the top 10. Plus, Sergio Perez was handed a 5-second time penalty early on for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, which I'm not going to go into, but what I will say is that by the letter of the law, it was correct. Moving on to Toro Rosso very quickly, not really spectacular at all, were they? And again, rounding out the field, Williams, I mean, apart from their inter-team battle, nothing really happened. Now, in my opinion, Daniel Ricciardo should be handed a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, because he did gain an advantage by braking later and overtaking Lando Norris. That's how he overtook him, so he should be handed a penalty. Plus, when he came back on the track, it was a bit aggressive and Lando Norris had to take evasive action, so you could put that variable in there as well. I mean, nostalgically, 5-second time penalty for coming back on the track in a dangerous manner. And he did have to go wide off the track to find a way past Kimi Räikkönen, so I cannot see how Daniel Ricciardo doesn't get a penalty. Lewis Hamilton is in a league of his own at the moment. He has opened up a 36-point lead in the driver's standings. He is just at an elite level. Sebastian Vettel is third, with Max Verstappen being sandwiched within the two Ferraris. Pierre Gasly, I mean, he's really coming under pressure from the chasing pack, with Sainz 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Raikkonen 9th and Magnussen P10. And again, the points could change if Ricciardo does eventually get a penalty. And if he does get a penalty, guys, I will leave it either down in the description or I'll post it as a comment. But moving on to the constructors' standings, Mercedes, just the ascendancy within that team is unfathomable. They've opened up a 140-point gap. It is such a mammoth gap that I cannot see Ferrari closing it down. Red Bull are in third with McLaren in fourth. Renault are in fifth. Again, it can change. Racing Points in sixth. Alfa Romeo jump up to seventh after a very strong race on Kimi Räikkönen's side. Toro Rosso are in eighth. Haas are down in ninth. It has been an awful season for the American outfits. And of course, Williams prop up the field on 0 points. Can I see them scoring points in 2019? Well, no, I can't see them getting out of Q1 in 2019. The car is just so dire. Moving on to my driver of the day, I'm going to go for Kimi Räikkönen. Now, officially, it was given to Lando Norris, and I think Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton and even Charles Leclerc deserve a shout, but the pace of the Alfa Romeo was not spectacular on race day, yet Kimi Räikkönen could somehow stay ahead of Nico Hülkenberg on track in a Renault. What Hülkenberg was driving was a much quicker car. He was a big threat to Daniel Ricciardo, and at the end of the day, he finished P8 on track, so huge credit deserves to go to Kimi Räikkönen. But guys, that is it for today's video. Please like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video, and please subscribe to the F1 Tube YouTube channel. I will have a video coming out in the next few days discussing some channel plans in the next few weeks. But guys, until next time, see you later.